Yo, what's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. So today in this video I just have to talk about the recent removal of Talk Radio's channel from YouTube and how this is just a continuation of what is called censored free speech. And before everyone gets all happy, because I know Talk Radio for the most part is kind of a right-leaning channel in terms of how it operates itself, in terms of the viewpoint it espouses, you have to look at the bigger picture here, and this is what I'm worried about. Now, from what I'm aware, it looks as if the reason why their channel was taken down was because of the certain views that they had on their channel about the government's approach to things like the lockdown and vaccinations. So it must have in some shape or form violated YouTube's policy. Now, of course, they've decided to fight it because that's what they should do. And that's what every YouTuber should do, at least from the get-go, if they're not aware of why their channel was removed. But the bigger picture is, again, my main worry. And that is, it should be concerning to all of those who have an opinion about something that's against the norm, about whether you even have the right to express your opinion. Because if YouTube are willing to ban larger, and let's be honest, more mainstream media from their platforms, because Talk Radio, even though they're not fully mainstream, they're one of the larger radio platforms out here as opposed to more independent YouTubers, then the question I have to have is, what about the likes of smaller content creators like myself, for example, and just others who all they're doing is using the platform for what I believe it was intended for, and that was to share your views, share whatever it may be, but basically sharing your viewpoint on their platform as a content sharing platform. Now, I do realize, don't get me wrong, I'm not an idiot to this, and I'm not new to this neither. YouTube has its own terms and conditions and guidelines that you have to follow. It's a private company, therefore you're technically in their house. And in order for you to have a YouTube account, you have to agree to terms and conditions when you're uploading. There's so many things that you have to be worried about violating their policies. I get all that. However, this ain't what that is. This is not what's happening here, surely. I mean, Talk Radio and others like myself, they've not been violating YouTube terms and conditions. All what they're doing is simply having a different opinion and having other people on their show to express their opinion, maybe of like mind, and sometimes I see it's not of the same like mind. Unless I've missed something, and this is the key, unless I've missed something which is bigger than what is currently been reported, in which, if that is the case, I'll definitely come back and happily readdress it. But the main problem is we are fast becoming a society where we only want to hear an echo chamber. And if anyone dares to air a different opinion, God forbid, here comes the cancel culture, ready to take away people's livelihoods, brand them, whatever, obic, whatever they make brand them, they're going to do it just to alienate them from society. And again, in a lot of cases I've seen, lose their jobs, livelihoods, and reputation. And all it is expressing a different opinion, not inciting anyone to, spew hatred or inciting anyone to harm, just expressing a different opinion. And what makes it even worse is just the platform that they've taken down in Talk Radio, because I've listened to Talk Radio on a few occasions and they aren't afraid to debate people who disagree with them, and they do it regularly on their show. So it's not as if they're like an echo chamber completely exclusively like you have other shows where you see them, all it is just the same type of people who would agree with them. They have people who disagree on the other side, and the way they do it, it's not like, for example, Good Morning Britain with Piers Morgan and how he won't let anyone speak for like 5 seconds before he interjects and cuts them off and act like a dickhead. That's not how Talk Radio operate. Not from the videos that I've seen. They do things fairly, cleanly. They let both sides have their viewpoint. So you are left under no doubt, unless they completely misinterpret their own viewpoints, as to what it is that they stand for. And that's why it kind of kills me when I look at a situation like Talk Radio, who for the most part, they have their own right-centered opinion. That must be what it is. It must be because their viewpoints do not lean left. And because nowadays, particularly, anyone who has a different opinion who doesn't lean from the left, basically you can't have an opinion. Everyone else need not apply unless you have a left-center viewpoint. Now, I'm sure their appeal to YouTube will all be fine, and then they'll have their YouTube channel back in no time whatsoever. But even with that, say if that does happen, there's still two issues that still spring to mind when that does happen. Number one is just the speed that YouTube has decided to remove the channel without even some sort of, discussion or something that must have taken place. YouTube just thought, it violates sound policies, whatever it may be, even though it doesn't, and then, there it goes. And then number two, Talk Radio, again, they're pretty big and well connected. Again, they're not as mainstream, but they're pretty mainstream. So I'm thinking to myself, if this was a smaller, more independent channel who may not have as much contacts or may not have the belief or conviction to be able to overturn it because they maybe have a bit of fear, then I'm like this. Would YouTube have overruled that ruling? Would they have overturned it and said, you know what, we're going to let this live? Because at the end of the day, talk radio has a lot of listeners for the most part, and they can apply pressure. Whereas a smaller independent channel, they have no chance like that. They're going to be just gone to the wind, and no one will know any the wiser, because guess what? They can do these things unilaterally. Because again, once you sign up to YouTube's terms and conditions, you're on their home court, you're on their turf. So the bigger picture is what has to worry people, and it does worry myself about where things are headed, how just scared society is when it comes to trying to listen or even entertain someone who disagrees with them. And the funniest thing about it is, particularly an institution like YouTube, because it is an institution, let's be honest right now, is this is how businesses and individuals end up failing and losing, badly in life, because they surround themselves with yes men who are afraid to challenge the status quo. And if someone is at YouTube, surely they must understand that by continuing to have such a left-wing bias, because we know Facebook, for the most part, has a left-wing bias, but YouTube really was a kind of a space where it would allow and entertain different viewpoints. Now, again, we can always discuss how different of a viewpoint you're allowed to have, and I'm down with that. However, for the most part, these things are like, well, hold on a second, this is nothing, this is tame, this is nothing which should upset people, but it does. And this is what I'm thinking. I think YouTube, you're going to be losing a lot more business, a lot more sponsorship by trying to keep it too PC, where actually no one can say anything, because next year, next month, someone will find something offensive that we're like, what? And who can stand up to that? Who can stand up to the test of time? And that's what it seems like it's going real quick. And unless someone does something about it, i.e. create another YouTube of some sort or some other alternate platform where free speech can actually be free speech for the most part. I get it, there'll always be some sort of rules that govern free speech. Like in any society, there's always rules that govern everything. But this ain't that. This ain't what it is. So let me know your thoughts on this. Are you worried about what this means in terms of censorship in itself, or you just don't care because, you know, like a lot of people, I'm assuming you hate talk radio and you hate right-wing people or say right-wing belief systems. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, I'm out.